It was 8 days on, 6 days off, and we did 5 hitches. So 40 days out there. And then some of those,
You say pitches or pitches?
we call them hitches, it's like each 8 day stretch.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Well, how's it
Yeah, for the
going?
weekends, I went backpacking up.
It's taken a long time. How you doing? Did you last meeting?
No, I.
No, this is, easy.
I actually took class.
Yeah. And then we had a big meeting there, so we did like 3.
And then I went back.
Yeah, beginning of July, so yeah.
Then we go to
we
Mount
were
Adams,
June.
spent 5 hours started there, so I'm gonna go to my
Crazy.
family.
How that happened, yeah.
By our brand new clock, which I'm really excited to see, we're 2 minutes late, so let's get going.
And that's the right time.
Okay, so, and that way we're gonna shame anybody who comes in late and. Remind me to come in, yeah, I'm fine. So I guess I will turn it over to Willow for her.
Are we doing the thing? We're starting?
What's that?
Are we starting? Okay. All right, well, I can go ahead and get started with our opening remarks. So good evening, everyone. My name is Willow and I'm the City of Eugene staff rep for this meeting. Before the chairs convene the meeting, I have a few reminders and introductory words. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that tonight's meeting is being held on Kalapuya Alihi, the traditional indigenous homelands of the Kalapuya people, who continue to make contributions in their communities here and across the land we now refer to as Oregon. The purpose of the Active Transportation Committee is to advise the City of Eugene staff and community organizations and partners on the implementation of Eugene's pedestrian and bicycle strategic plan, to represent community and constituent interests in transportation planning decisions, and to provide feedback to staff on projects related to walking and bicycling. City of Eugene staff will consider recommendations from the ATC along with input from other members of the public during decision-making processes. Please keep in mind that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed to YouTube, meaning that it can be viewed on the City of Eugene's YouTube channel both right now and in the future. All verbal and written commentary is held in the public record. Today's meeting will begin with a 15-minute public comment period. The public comment period is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the Active Transportation Committee on transportation-related issues. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When it is your time to speak, please give your name, city of residence, and if you live in Eugene, your ward or neighborhood. We'll begin with those of us who are online. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature within Zoom, and I will unmute your microphone.
Lucy, while you're there, would you mind just opening one of the doors, just in case somebody would come and open the door, we can hear them. They can't get in unless we let them in.
That works, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the janitor comes by with a really loud early part, and that's how we can.
We can shut it.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any online folks who want to give public comment. So we will transition to those of us who are here in person. Looks like Noah, you want to be comment?
Yes.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Noah Brunel. I live in Eugene in Ward 1, Neighborhood Association. What I'm bringing to you tonight came out of some discussions at the Best Cycle of Change biking group. I am not here though to represent Best or Cycle of Change biking group. Here's myself. What we were looking at was the intersection of 24th and Alder. We went down and did a little audit of the intersection. Alder is the greenway north and south, and it supposedly extends a ways past 24th southbound, but you wouldn't really know it coming south on Alder. It just appears to come to an abrupt end. There are some visibility problems there for cyclists southbound, seeing the traffic coming along 24th. There's about a half mile, I measured it, I don't remember now, but at least a half mile stretch of long straightaway with no stop signs for traffic coming down 24th eastbound. So they get going pretty fast. I'm here to request that ATC push the city on providing some kind of treatment to make the Alder Street Greenway a complete greenway down to its end rather than one with a gap in the middle. Not the most dangerous intersection in the city by any means, but I believe the completeness of our bike network and connectedness is important to, especially to casual new users, to convince them that this is something worthwhile to do. I also believe that beyond safety, there is comfort and dignity is a significant issue, and this is a well-used greenway that has an uncomfortable and undignified gap in the middle of it. One of the people that Cyclone Change drew up a possible treatment. It's essentially to replicate what is on 19th and Alder currently, which is to have a bit of a median in the middle to provide a really clear signal to drivers that something's going on here. This is not just the continued straightaway. My understanding is that the treatment on 19th was quite cheap as far as city work goes, and that it has had a real impact, that there used to be a lot of high-speed traffic coming down 19th, and that has reduced. So I will leave this here to pass around, but again, this is just an idea. This is the best we could come up with as amateurs. But I mean, the city's already done something like it, so. That's all I got. I would like our bike network to be more connected and dignified, and that is a really good spot to work on.
Thanks, Mark. As a short response, Cycles of Change did email a drafted version of that to myself and to Reed, and Reed said that he's going to bring it up with Rob, so it is kind of it has been delivered to us, and we'll see kind of where the staff feels like we can take it. I don't really have any information beyond that, though.
Can we put it on one of our future agendas?
We can.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, I'd be glad to make a motion saying we'd like to have the city do something about it, but I don't know if that's protocol with after public comment.
Yeah, we'd want to probably have time for a discussion about it before making a motion, in which case it'd probably be better fit for a
Okay.
future agenda.
Can Cycle Change expect a response from Rob or Reed or whoever?
Right, yeah, they can expect a response. Right now, there has not been one sent.
Okay.
Yeah. But we won't let their email just hang out in purgatory. Hopefully. Okay. Who do we have next? Connie, looks like you want to give comment.
I circulated a couple of cartoons that can go around the group here. As always, I know of one person who died recently. I think up north of us, they were hit by a semi on the road as a bicyclist. And that's just a note. I don't even know how many people were hit by bicycles in the last 2 months. To segue into him, I'm a part of Amazon neighborhood, and we had an open discussion at the drumming event at Amazon Park and asked for people's input about the neighborhood, which of course is from 24th to 30th. We had 3 people talking about the intersection of 24th and Alder, a little sticky note saying, one suggested a 4-way stop. They said, you know, how can you make it better at 24th and Alder? So there was 3 people who were saying, you know, what can we do to slow it down? We now have the Y there, plus of course we have the kids going to both South Eugene and Roosevelt, so it's extremely heavy traffic as well as all the bike traffic and both local and long term and the pedestrian traffic. So it's a really busy intersection, so if anyone can figure out a way to do, like they were saying there, I'm very impressed with how consistently people stop at 19 and let me through. I am really surprised because they don't shine it on like they do a lot of the other stuff. They actually do come to a stop at 19th, and I'm very impressed that that seems to work. Sure.
Okay, I think that can close the public comment period, and I'll hand it over to the chairs to convene the meeting.
Okay, so, And there's anybody else who didn't sign up who wants to?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right, so the next item is to approve the, meeting summary notes of the August meeting, which emailed to you. Are there any corrections? And if not, we can accept the motion to approve them.
Move to approve.
It's Charlie and second. Okay, Mary. All those in favor? All right, looks like they're approved.
Yay.
Okay, and at that, I will turn things over to Kelsey, I presume, for Elko.
Yeah,
Ellen's gonna start.
Yeah, can I just?
Yeah, why
Connect with you about the presentation.
oh, I
How
suppose
we-
I should get your presentation.
We can do introductions while we do that. If you want to start, Delaney.
My name is Delaney Thompson, and I'm an assistant transportation planner at LCOG.
Speak up a little bit, please.
My name is Delaney Thompson. I'm an assistant transportation planner at LCOG, and I use they, them pronouns.
Kelsey Moore, transportation options specialist at LCOG as well. She, her pronouns.
And I'm Ellen Career. I'm a principal transportation planner at LCOG, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about what LCOG is and what an NPO is. And Kelsey and Delaney are gonna talk a little bit more in depth about some of the programming that we do. So I'll take the wonky part first. Okay, great. Okay, we did introductions, so we're done with that. Has anybody heard of Lane Council of Governments before? Oh, quite a few people, so that's great. Do you all know what a Council of Governments is? Sort of, okay. So I actually was curious when I was putting this presentation together, I was like, how many Council of Governments are there? And I tried to Google it and I couldn't figure it out. But regardless, they exist across the country. And the answer that I found was basically most local governments are represented by a Council of Governments. And they are voluntary associations of local governments. So they're not a local government in the way that City of Eugene is, where they have a tax base and they collect taxes. We are our member agency. So we basically are made up of our government agencies that join us. And we are countywide. We represent from library districts to the county to the cities in Lane County. Fire districts, and we provide all different types of services. Actually, the largest division at LCOG is Senior and Disability Services. We have probably about 300 employees who work with state agencies and local governments to provide services for seniors and people with disabilities. And then the other side of LCOG is government services, which is what we represent, and we're pretty small. I think we're maybe about 30 to 40 employees. We're pretty small. We're located downtown. And we provide planning and development services. So a lot of our planners will work with small jurisdictions to do land use applications if they have a rush and they don't have enough planners to provide that service. We have a geographic information department that does a lot of mapping and data analysis for different governments. Transportation, which we're a part of and we'll talk more about later. IS services, grant writing. We do operate Link Lane, which is the transit service that goes between Eugene and Florence. It's a relatively new transit service, and that was actually started by an individual who was really persistent and came to a lot of public meetings and really planted the seed about the need to have that connection between the coast and the city of Eugene. So LCOG applied for a grant and was able to start that service. Business loans, which is a pretty small program. We have a couple staff that work on that. And then Metro TV, which you may be familiar with. If you've ever watched a public meeting on TV, Metro TV does that. They also do kind of video coverage of things. So sometimes you'll see programmatic short videos. I think the city of Eugene has used them for things. We've used them for some of our services. So that's kind of generally what we are. We do a lot of different things. Anybody have questions about COGS before I move on? Feel free to jump in at any time. Okay, so what is an MPO? Does anyone know what a Metropolitan Planning Organization is? Less familiar. Okay, So we are the Metropolitan Planning Organization for our area, and they also exist across the country. They're federally designated, so any jurisdiction that has a population of 50,000 or more will have a Metropolitan Planning Organization. And the reason for that is partly came out of the building of the interstate system. And so when the federal government started that project, they upset some local and state governments through that process, and they retroactively realized that they needed to have some coordination happening at the regional level. So the main thing that MPOs are associated with is this continuing cooperative and comprehensive planning process. So basically having a regional agency that is ensuring that the federal transportation dollars that are coming to a region are consistent with state and local plans. So within that, obviously regional coordination, which is a large portion of what we do. Evaluating alternatives is kind of a less wonky way of saying modeling. So we do a lot of transportation modeling where we're taking data in and kind of predicting what our transportation needs are going to be 20 years out. And then we put that into a long range plan, which is called our regional transportation plan. That model actually supports a lot of the local transportation system plans as well. So a lot of that data is used in local planning. And then the transportation improvement program is that funding piece. So we get an allocation of federal funding to our region, and all of those dollars have to go into that plan. So we do a process at the regional level. Our jurisdictions apply for that funding, and then it goes into that plan, and that's how we access those federal dollars. All part of those things that I just listed is public involvement. So talking to the public about what their vision is for the regional transportation system. And then we have an additional requirement, which also cities do as well, to adhere to the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act to do some equity analysis and outreach around that. Air quality is also something that we do. This is not true of all MPOs, but if you live in an area that has air quality issues, regardless of whether they are derived from transportation sources, you have to do some additional work around that. So as you know, we have air quality issues here primarily due to wood smoke, but that requires us to do some additional analysis around transportation projects to make sure that whatever we build does not make that worse. So our region does have air quality analysis, and then we do receive additional federal dollars because of that. Wrong
I will
computer here.
just throw out real quick, a couple months ago, I gave a funding presentation where I was just kind of going over how we get money for different transportation projects, and in there I had mentioned MPO funding. So that's what Ellen is talking about, and where that, when I said MPO, I was like, and that's a whole different thing. This is
what it is.
Yeah, this is the whole different thing, and different projects will apply for funding to the MPO and sometimes get money.
But the MPO, is it just Eugene, Springfield and Coburg? Or
Correct.
So it wouldn't, like, air problems of Oak Ridge, that's not us, that's.
Correct. So Oak Ridge air quality is not something that we have to deal with, but because of the area's air quality issues, and that's primarily due to wood smoke, I don't know, I wasn't super aware of this until we started having summer air quality problems, but we also have winter air quality problems because of the inversion. So now I checked the air quality and I realized that we do have air quality issues in the urban area, and it's because of the weather systems. So I think that's how we entered into that, where we have to basically, we're non-attainment, which means that we're not meeting those goals of the air quality regulations.
So are there sister, I'll call them, multi-agency umbrella organizations that you coordinate with about water or climate or things like that?
So we do have coordination requirements. Usually that happens during our long range planning effort. So we will reach out to those, and that's part of the federal requirements where we kind of share our plans. I will say that the long range planning effort, and I'll talk a little bit more in a couple of slides about this, is more of a collaboration with the local plans. And that's partly because Oregon has so much local planning that happens. I think it might be distinct in other states. But we're not typically proposing projects that are not existing in a TSP. What we're doing is taking regionally significant projects and putting them into a long-range plan to do the federal planning requirements. So it's kind of like the coordination between the federal requirements and then what the locals in the state would like to see.
Well, for example, a lot of our roadways are along water courses, right? They're along
Yes.
rivers and so forth. And so it sounds like though that your only responsibility is transportation as opposed to looking at a bigger ecosystem,
Correct.
even though
We do.
what you do could have impact in.
We do analysis around that. And I will say we're kind of fortunate in Oregon that we're not doing huge capacity projects. So if you go to another jurisdiction, you may see they're putting in like new lanes in a highway, which there would trigger that type of analysis more so than we do here.
Thank you.
No, this is the slide I want to be on. Okay, so I talked kind of generally about what metropolitan planning organizations are and you'll mostly see that we do a lot of the same things, but I did want to highlight a couple of things that we do that are distinct or maybe not part of the requirement. So we do our long-range planning, the funding, the modeling. We have a data portal, and I think the last time I was here was pre-COVID, and I did a presentation on our data portal. We're in the process of updating that, so maybe when we have that updated, I'll come back and give a presentation on that. But that's kind of a partnership between our MPO work and our GIS program to provide access to regional data sets. So there's transportation safety data on there, there's our bike ped count data, all sorts of different things. So maybe that'll be a future topic that I can come back to. Transportation options, which is what we're trying to get to today once I get through all the wonky stuff. And then safety programming, which I'll talk about. This is our long range plan. I just wanted to mention it that we are in the process of updating it. So we started in January of this year. We're kind of doing our existing conditions, goal setting work right now, and we'll be launching the public involvement piece of that this fall. So I will share all that information with Willow when we have that launched and ready to go. Like I said, we're kind of combining the planning work that our jurisdictions are doing. So the type of public involvement that you'll expect to see is tell us how you perceive our transportation system. So it's kind of more contextual information, what you want to see, how you use the system. We'll have an online open house that I'll share with Willow. So that's one part of our long range planning. We also have a regional safety plan. The last time we did it was a partnership with Lane County. We did apply for a Safe Streets for All federal grant in this last funding round. We're not sure if we got it yet, and that is to cover the MPO plan. The city of Springfield does not have a safety plan, so it would create a safety plan for the city of Springfield. And a project that kind of replicates what the city of Eugene is doing with the first last mile to transit analysis that they're doing with their, is that part of the Safe Streets for All?
I think it was.
Yeah. So LTD was really interested in expanding that analysis to city of Springfield. So fingers crossed we get that, and we'll have some additional safety planning that comes out of that. I just wanted to list some of our committees so you can, I think one of the questions you all had was how does the city interact with LCOG on transportation issues? So the city has representatives on our policy committee, Metropolitan Policy Committee, that is made up of the mayor, city councilors, county commissioners, LTD board members, and ODOT reps. So that's the main way they're contributing to adoption of all of our plans and policies, and they weigh in on funding allocation. Transportation Planning Committee, Transportation Advisory Committee, and Transportation Options, those are all staff level committees that City of Eugene is present at. And then I just wanted to mention that we have a youth council that launched about 1.5 years ago. It's made up of high school students, actually primarily in Eugene. We're in the process of recruiting for our Springfield reps, and they work with both the MPO and the region as well as the Safe Routes to School program. So it's kind of a partnership between those two programs to get youth involved in transportation programming and policy. And then we also represent our region on kind of statewide committees as well. Okay, so getting to the programming, transportation options funding sources in Lane County. So we do have two sources of funding, and well, at least two. The federal transportation dollars that we allocate a flat rate of $300,000 a year to do transportation options programming in our region. Part of that supports Springfield and Coburg, which Kelsey manages. Part of that we give to the city of Eugene to implement their own programs because they have staffing. You may remember a couple of years ago, or more than a couple of years ago, there was a program called Point to Point that was at Lane Transit District. That was how we historically had supported transportation options programming in our region. Post-COVID, they were not able to continue that program. And so this is the arrangement we have with that funding that we allocate as a region. So part of it stays at LCOG to do work in Springfield and Coburg, and part of it just goes to Eugene staff, and they have a robust program that they implement. And then we do also have kind of dedicated funding to support our safe routes to school, and that goes to the school districts. So that is dedicated. We don't have to apply for that in a competitive process. And we do have approval to increase that a little bit every year to account for cost of living and, you know, salary increases and things like that. We did apply for one-time funding to support bike and pedestrian safety, which is a core part of our Safe Routes to School program. That was a one-time competitive grant, so we are in the process of kind of figuring out how to continue to offer those programs long-term with a more consistent funding source. And then the state of Oregon provides each region some federal dollars for transportation options programming. And that's really great because that allows us to do programming out into rural Lane County. And that's something we've been really expanding in the last couple of years. And then City of Eugene, like I said, has their own transportation options program, and they dedicate local funds to that. So that's kind of all the ways that we support these programs. I think I mentioned most of these. These are kind of the types of projects that we offer, and then we'll get into more in depth about the Maze Bike Month in Walktober. Safe Routes to School I mentioned. So the Eugene, 4J, Bethel, and Springfield are covered by that federal transportation dollars that come through our region. We had a two-time grant for the rural Safe Routes to School program. We did not receive that in the last round, so that's another one that we're kind of strategizing how to keep that program going. We also do individualized and regional marketing campaigns. So individualized marketing campaigns are, we used to call them smart trips. Now it's new movers in Eugene. What do you call it?
Maybe smart trips, but we might go to New Movers in Springfield.
Yeah, so basically that's the direct outreach to neighborhoods and individuals with marketing materials about transportation options. So providing information, incentives, programs and events to kind of show them how they can try different options in their neighborhood. And they're really great because they're catered to those neighborhoods, or if it's a new movers campaign, cater to someone who's new to the community. Seasonal campaigns we'll get to, and I will just go, I'll skip over get there because that's my next slide. And then congestion management outreach is something that we have done in the past in partnership with ODOT. They haven't had a lot of huge construction projects in the region, but typically when they do one, they'll reach out to us and ask us to do outreaching campaigns around that construction. So if there's somebody who's dramatically impacted by that, we can help them strategize around different ways to get to where they need to go if that construction is impacting their commute or their access to certain areas. And then large employer outreach is kind of a future project that we as a region are hoping to do more work on. Safety programming I briefly mentioned before. So we do have a coordinator who works on safety programming and education. And I brought his card if there's anyone that's interested in that. He has a variety of different projects that he works on, and I brought some of the flyers for those as well. So the Oregon Friendly Driver, has anyone heard of that program? Rachel. So that's a statewide program and it's Commute Options and Street Trust in Portland offer it for their regions and Drew offers it for our region. The intent is to provide additional education to primarily fleet companies around how to interact with people walking and biking. Anyone can take the class, but that was the intent behind it was we have a lot of new infrastructure. We have more people walking and biking. People who have taken their driver's test many decades ago may not be sure about how to interact with that new infrastructure or different types of people using the roads. So that's what the class covers. We can offer it to anyone, but we do try to work with, school bus drivers, fleet organizations, any place that has kind of built into their company, kind of a driver training thing. Rural Driver Education is a new program that we're launching this year. We did receive a grant for that to expand access to driver education. It's pretty limited in the urban area. It's really limited in the rural area. So that's what this person will be focusing on, is trying to get more access to driver education for teens. We do have a big campaign that we've been working on with Terrell Group for DUI prevention and speed reduction. So we'll have some materials that we'll be sharing and we can send to Willow for you all to see. Car seat checks, so basically how to install a car seat, responsible alcohol sales training, so working with alcohol servers to understand when to not serve people. And I mentioned Drew, and I brought his card if anybody wants to reach out or learn more about the Safe Lane Coalition, he'd be the person to talk to. Okay, and then part of our outreach and campaign is seasonal. So the Get There platform has anyone heard of the Get There platform? Does anyone have an account? No, our core constituency.
Got one.
So the Get There platform is part of that statewide transportation options work. So there's a lot of people across the state working on trying to improve that platform and get more people involved with it. They typically do a fall campaign called the Get There Challenge. This year they have rebranded it and it's called the Car Free Challenge. So they're kind of trying to do different things to see how people interact with it and see how we want to improve it over time. But basically it's a short challenge that allows people to log their trips and win prizes, and the state incentivizes it. So you all seem like you would be great candidates for using that. And then Be Safe Be Seen, I'm sure you all have heard of this. Kelsey does a ton of work around coordination around Be Safe Be Seen and trying to get reflective materials, lights, and out to all the community-based organizations. So when it gets darker, people have access to those materials. And that's funded through our state program as well. And then Walktober and May's Bike Month, we're going to talk to, I just put up the Get There Car Free Challenge. It's the 16th, which is soon, through the 22nd. So if you
should all
don't,
sign up.
yeah, if you don't have an account, I won't say it's the easiest platform to use, but I have confidence you all can figure it out. And you basically go in and you log your trips and you're entered to win prizes. There's statewide prizes and local prizes. And then you're kind of in their system and they send information to you about how you can access resources and things like that. But definitely try it out and provide feedback to us. And then I brought cards for Julia Woolley, who's our staff person who manages this program as well.
And the Get There app that shows up in a search, that's it?
You know, I
Or not?
don't think it is.
Oh.
The app is called, what's the app called?
I'm done with that one.
So I will look that up while Kelsey and Delaney do their slides. So the Get There Challenge, if you go just to a web browser, Get There Challenge, you'll find it. And then there is a standalone app, and I think it's called something with Commute in it. Commute. I will look it up for you.
Okay.
And I think if you find the link on the web browser, it'll take you to it. Like I said, it's not the most
straightforward.
it's not the most advanced technology, but I still think it's, it's worthwhile for you all for sure.
how is this coordinated or linked to the car-free, a week without driving?
Without driving, that's a great question. So there are people participating in Week Without Driving in our region. Is the city of Eugene
Yeah,
doing something?
we just figured this out today, actually. The Week Without Driving is being sent to city council. And they're being asked to participate in the Week Without Driving, and Cass Attergreen, one of my coworkers, is going to be working with each council member to help like trip plan for them and actually create like an opportunity for them to ride the bus or bike
Yeah.
or walk instead, so.
And I'm pretty sure the LTD board members are also
Okay.
participating, and so. The Week Without Driving is a little bit more oriented towards people who are showing policymakers. What it's like if you cannot drive, don't have access to driving. So it's got a little bit more of like a disability advocacy. Origin, I would say. To be honest, the Get There Car Free Challenge, I'm not sure how they came up with the, the language behind that. I think they're trying to find different ways to incentivize people to use the platform. So maybe they thought this one was a little bit more explanatory than just the Get There Challenge, which is what it used to be called. So I think that might be why, but they are different campaigns. We're gonna try to promote both through our social media and things like that, but they're distinct. And I think the Week Without Driving, there's no prizes or anything. It's more about sharing your story and your experience of trying a different mode and more of an advocacy policy type.
Thank you.
Yes.
I will say that the Get There Challenge, like winning prizes is pretty likely. I tend to be successful when I do the challenge. I'll like get a gift card or something.
Yeah.
So chances
Because
are,
we don't have very many people like that.
if you do sign up, someone on the APC will win something, I feel sure, if we all do it.
That's a
So
very good tip. Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, oh no, our core group of people that you would think would access it.
you should definitely do it because I win something like every year.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so May is Bike Month. Did anyone attend an event last year as part of it? So I know you all asked about like what we do for programming and what some of the goals were and what we can track to say what's happening from this programming. So some of our event goals are just simply community building, education, connection to resources, and mode shift. So we're really looking to kind of invite folks in to give biking a try and get them resources and information to make that easier. So the last 2 years, Delaney had the brilliant idea of hiring a local artist to do our artwork. And so we've had beautiful and engaging artwork that looks like that, including stickers, flyers, social media, swag like mugs and things like that you probably all saw. So that was really exciting, and it was really noticeable that like when the artists like share the content on their social media that different community members were engaging with it. And we heard a lot of people say it was really visual, they're really drawn to it. So it's been a really interesting like foray into maybe connecting with different community members through the art and the artwork and that connection. Thanks to Delaney. And then this year was the first year that we did Bike Month passports. Hopefully incentivizing folks like trying to go to different events and get their little bird stickers in their passport. It was definitely like, we heard a lot of families and kids say they wanted to use it, which was kind of, we didn't realize that would be the demographic. There was a little scramble trying to make sure we had enough family and kid-friendly events, and we did, which is good. But that was really interesting. Like families wanted to do that together to get engaged. So that was cool to see that. And then we reinstigated the kickoff event, which I know a lot of you came to. It was at Oakshire, and it was very well attended. It was just really fun to see that community feeling again of like coming together in celebration. And we had approximately, we didn't go through and count because the calendar was very long, but we had counted in the past, and it was approximately 88 Bike Month events. But that's like everyone. So the city of Eugene hosted some, we hosted some, Shift Community Cycle. So just kind of like counts the whole entire community. And technically anyone from the community could host a bike month event. So like literally anyone could be like, I'm hosting an event, and it would go on the calendar, which is cool.
You hosted one, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then we did count this one. 29 partners hosted events. So in total, like counting City of Eugene, LCOG, everyone, there were 29 organizations, individual hosting events, which was really fun to see. And it allows for a lot of resource sharing and collaboration, I think, even among the organizations that are involved. So that's really nice. And then the next slide talks a little bit more about, so I mentioned it's really challenging to measure mode shift because when we're inviting the whole entire community to bike for a month and participate, it's quite challenging to then get everyone to fill out a survey saying, did this change your mode? As you can imagine. So instead, we focus a little bit more on looking at the reach and like kind of the output of like, who did we talk to? Who did we invite in? Who maybe got information that they didn't have before? Who maybe attended an event or at least just saw information that it was happening. So here's some of the info, just how many unique visits on our website, social media hits, posters that we posted throughout town twice, I think 2 or 3 times during the month. We had those go out with Peddlers Express. Print ads we had in 3 different newspapers, and then digital ads in a couple of newspapers. We also had them on screen at the Metro and the Art House, which we know it's like a definite like subset of who's going to be there, but it's a different avenue of reaching out, so we're happy with that. And then promo materials, you kind of see t-shirts, stickers, mugs, bandanas, bike bells, and then passports. We printed a lot. We did not have very many turned in. We learned that we need to have opportunities to turn it in during the month. But we know that people are using them because every event I was at, people would show up with their passport and want their bird. And if you gave them the same bird as last time, they were very upset. So there was a lot of like, what is the bird? I need it to be unique. So
They were too cute. Everyone wanted to keep them.
there was a lot of buy-in. And I discovered that it's really hard to like have to cut apart birds and hand them out to like 30 people at a ride. So the total that we spent, that it's gonna be a little bit more than what's up there that we spent money on, but total was 43,000, and that includes like the intern and hiring shift community cycles for some of our events and all the other expenses. That does not include staff time. But it kind of gives you a sense of like the amount of money that goes through to produce that event. Any questions or feedback? Yeah.
Well, I saw it advertised a lot, so I think you guys did a good job of that. The thing that kind of connected me with the whole event more than anything was when I went to is it Filmed by Bike? Did you guys put that on?
It was a.
Rachel did that.
Rachel, nice job. But the little film about the artist, that was so good, and it really made me appreciate the art. It really made me appreciate the art and the artist and the community connection. I would not have known any of that without that, and I felt like a much deeper connection with the whole thing out of that. And if there's a way to get that film out, that kind of, you're doing that kind of thing, I don't know where else you could show it besides that or where else you did, but that was really good. Did anybody else see that? Really good.
Posted it on our social media, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it is on our social media.
It's on the Film by Bike webpage as well.
Okay.
That is posted on the LCOG Native Bike website. All the short films in the competition, and then the Shift Community Cycles film, and the one about Eric, the artist.
Eric,
are on
yeah.
the website.
We just need to hire that same intern every year. Gloria was great.
Yeah.
Any other questions about Maze Bike Month before we go to Walktober?
No questions, but I just wanted to add that I thought it was really well done this year. There were so many events, and it was just really inspiring to see the bike community come together. It's like, we're all, biking around. I went to lots of events. Well, yeah, with LCOG actually. LCOG sponsored, and I was a yoga teacher. So yoga for cyclists. Yeah.
What did your bird look like?
I got a bird. It's a personality
Yeah,
test
hello.
with bird.
I came, I did yoga.
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many other good ones, but yeah. I like the owl. That was my favorite. bird.
The owl,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was a hit.
Okay, I'm going to be talking.
Named after a bird now. It's like eagle's pretty cool.
I'm gonna talk a little bit about October today. And this is the second year that we are doing this event, so I'm gonna be a little bit less data focused and more kind of focused on what's to come with this year and moving forward. So our event goals are very, very similar, the same as May is Bike Month. Community building, encouraging mode shift, resource connection, and also education. As mentioned, we worked with a local artist this year. Again, same artist, Eric Wonderly. They are a lovely artist to work with, and they have also been a great resource, as Kelsey mentioned, because they have a lot of connections into the community. They're very extroverted, they're very friendly, they know pretty much anyone walking down the street. So that has been very, very helpful for us with our outreach. We have been able to connect into new social networks that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to reach initially. As Kelsey mentioned, it's also been very helpful with their social media following. We have had a lot of following from them posting about it and then saying, hey, go follow May is Bike Month, go follow October. So that has been really helpful. And it's been really nice because, you know, we support local and local then in turn supports us. So that has been wonderful. Also love working with them because the art is bright, it's fun, it's eye-catching, and it's memorable. Which is what we want for an event for everyone to attend. As for walks, we're doing a variety of different walks. We've got hosted, we've got DIY walks. The DIY walks are the ones that are in the new mover packets. If someone requests pedestrian packets. We have the walking based challenges through Get There. And then we also have a cornerstone event called Coffee Shop Hop, which is discounts in local businesses. So Coffee Shop Hop, we have 19 coffee shops participating this year.
Is that an increase from last year?
Yes, last year was 12.
Okay.
So 17 of those are in downtown Eugene, 2 are in downtown Springfield. We are also hoping to send out blank versions of this passport to Oak Ridge and Florence as well. Someone in Florence said that they had interest in hosting that. So I'm really excited to see where that goes in Florence and Oak Ridge. So it's kind of similar to the May is Bike Month passport, except it's coffee shop focused. And you get discounts. There are discounts depending on what that particular shop felt like they could offer this year. There's 10%, 15%, and $1 off. So you go in, you walk in, you give them the passport, you get your discount on your drink. It's a cute little sticker. And then at the very end, there is a raffle for a gift card to the person's participating shop of choice. So the concept behind this was October is kind of the peak part of fall in Eugene. It's when you start getting a little bit chillier, it's beautiful out. And what's better to end a walk than hot drink? So, you know, new students are also coming in. They may have never lived in Eugene before. And so we really wanted people to go out, experience different coffee shops, and maybe find their new favorite spot that otherwise they might not have. And this also supports local business. So next I'll talk a little bit about our library connection that we're starting to foster. We already have a fairly strong connection with the Springfield Library, but we really have been wanting to connect better in with the downtown Eugene Library. So we're going to be doing a couple of things with the downtown Eugene Library for Walktober, and hopefully this will kind of move us forward with working with them beyond for future events such as May is Bike Month. So some of the ideas that we're trying to work on for this campaign are bookmarks. We have specific bookmarks that we made for Walktober that are either going to be going in held books or they're going to be at all of the desks, the reception desks. We will be having tote bags handed out at 3 different programming events for, keep an eye out for, at different age levels. We're going to have the coffee shop passports in the teen section. And then we have a bunch of fun little side characters that are going to be in the children's section. There's a monthly scavenger hunt. So those are gonna be the little friends that are there that month. So we're really excited with that connection, and as I mentioned, hoping that that will continue to snowball and that we'll be able to use that in future events. Merchandise, as I said, keep an eye out for. So the kind of thought behind the merchandise is that it is a helpful physical reminder for people to have with them throughout the year. So it's not just a little blip on their calendar of like, oh yeah, I go biking in May, but like it might help encourage people to think like, oh yeah, that was really fun. Why don't I go out and ride, this weekend? And it's also a good conversation starter. I have seen people in the May's Bike Month shirt in my favorite tea shop, and I didn't know them, and so that was a really cool connection to be able to make. So for October this year, we thought really specifically about kind of the demographics that we wanted to reach, and then also what makes sense for fall merchandising. So we've got tote bags, we've got coffee mugs, bookmarks, stickers, which I brought stickers to share with everyone.
Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses.
First people to get Walktober stickers.
Yes.
Special.
And we also have pins to go on the little tote bags as well. So we are trying to be really conscientious of what we are putting out there and that it is worthwhile for people. So that's kind of all I have for Walktober. I am really excited to see how Walktober grows in the future, and I welcome any ideas. So thank you.
I will say Walktober was Delaney's brainchild. They were like, you think we should do a month of walking? And the answer was yes, and then it's been wildly successful and fun. It has been really great.
Do you have the same like community calendar
Yes.
thing as the?
So, we meant to include QR codes for everyone, but they're really easy to remember. It's for May's Bike Month, it's We Bike Lane. For Walktober, it's wewalklane.org. So should be easy to remember. And then we have one more slide, sorry. Yeah.
I had a question about October. Are you doing anything to target UO students, like maybe go into the night library or something like that?
Rachel's doing a bird walk on campus.
Yes. When?
Can we all come?
Yeah. Show up, October 24th. When are you gonna do it, kiddo? October 24th, it's a Thursday. It'll be, I can't remember the time right now. 10 a.m., 11 a.m. at UO campus. We're gonna tour around the area near the river. It's the Willamette River Natural Area. And there's like a new campus natural area steward named Emily, who's gonna be on the walk too.
Cool.
So
That's a cool area, to be what they're trying to do there.
yeah, there's a lot of
Okay,
potential.
it should be on the UVO calendar then, right?
Eventually.
We're also gonna be at Transportation Day that Rachel's hosting on campus, and we'll have all the Walktober stuff there. So I think that's gonna be our main like push onto campus. We might drop some stuff off at like the EMU and the outdoor program and stuff. Students are very distracted during the beginning of term, and there's a lot of information coming at them. So we have found that this time of year is a little hard to infiltrate campus.
But they do go to coffee shops, so
For
we
sure.
have that
Yeah.
connection.
Angie's not gonna chime in for us. The only student on the committee. I'm a student.
This
As
is
a
wonderful.
coach.
Thank you very much.
No.
You've mentioned how fun it is, and I really like this this artist style. Is there any thought about doing some more art connection with the Walktober? A coffee shop passport, would there be a mural passport? There's a really cool mural down
Yeah.
at 27th and, at Paul's Bicycle Shop, Arriving by Bike, for example. So just, if you're still looking for activities, I think something like that would be really fun, and that cross fertilization among communities.
Yeah.
It's the what is it, Lane Art Council's Visual Art Week happens during
Mhm.
October, and we found out last year that thankfully they're already doing a lot of walks. So we just popped those on to our
Nice.
calendars. We tried to hire them, and then we found out they're already just like booked up. And so that's the connection we have so far, but it'd be fun to continue to grow it too.
And does look like on the website, there's the 2024 walks, and then there's just stuff already populated, which is very exciting.
Yeah, and I will say, this is on our opportunities to get involved slide, but we want community members to host events, both for May and October, so if you have an inspired idea and you feel, like you can organize and schedule something, there's a form that you can submit and you can schedule it and be included in the materials, so definitely encourage folks to think about things that you're interested in and host events.
Or if you know that like somebody is very specialized and could lead a walk in a specialized subject, we do hire a couple of like walk guides every year to just kind of like diversify the offerings. So that, think of anything, let us know. Right now, we have like a tree expert hired to lead tree walks and things like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's fall mushrooms, it's fall.
That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be fun.
I did not think that.
Outline a little bit, is there?
I did have a question. It's going back to the transportation option. We didn't really have a chance for questions then. I'm wondering if you are familiar with any places that have offered loaner bicycles, say for a week, for someone to try out riding, you know, being sized and fitted and so forth.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that? Have you
Yes,
considered
and
doing
we
that?
actually have that in one of our scopes. We have been in a long conversation with ODOT about the eligibility of federal funds for purchasing electric bikes or bikes for loaning. So we're still kind of figuring out the kinks for that. So there are some restrictions around how you spend federal dollars. But I do think that we'll have something like that in the future. It may actually be operated by Cascadia Mobility because they're kind of the experts in that
Yeah.
field. We are not. So it's in our scope. It's something that we're thinking about and talking about. We're just trying to figure out how to do it within the requirements that we have.
Yes.
I do have a question, could you do like a running Walktober event, or is it like strictly walking?
Run tober.
Thanks, Juan.
By the way.
Yeah. I think it's really good. We're just like going for like clear descriptions, so somebody could opt in or opt out, but there's like a run, walk and 5K event with the duck that we
Okay.
put on there. So it's like some events are like walk, run that are already on there.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
You do like yoga for sore feet.
Yeah.
I think that would be relevant.
Sorry, you must only do yoga.
Okay, we're actually
Yeah.
10 minutes over time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
These are opportunities to get involved. The main thing is participate and share information about our events. Plugging the Safe Routes to School community rides, Learn to Rides. We always need volunteers. You can go to the website and sign up for that. Feedback, and then Kelsey's done an amazing job of organizing so many photo shoots around the county. So if you ever wanted to be a model, reach out. You can be a walking and biking model for Kelsey.
Already participated. and we have so much-
It is fun.
It is
Yeah.
really fun.
Well, and we really appreciate it because it helps us develop materials when we have good photos to use. So sorry we went over.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
And there's a bunch of
Thank you.
stuff up here that you
Yeah.
can take. There's stickers and information about programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like our next thing is.
It is, yeah. We are at 6:30 and I wonder if maybe we want to do our break right now. And then we can come back in 5 minutes and jump into the next stuff, if that works for people. Okay, I feel like I kind of want to get up.
Yeah.
Okay, back at 6:35.
Well, let's talk about walking. That's a way.
Because they came out of the closet and all the bicycles to the ground.
Oh, no, really?
Oh, yeah, that's so wild.
Oh, that's what got knocked over.
Yeah, I was like,
We were muted. Sorry, Angie. That's why your hand was raised. I muted it during the break. Okay, for anyone on YouTube, we are talking about the Downtown Eugene Transportation Info Fair. We have about 8 main projects that we're gonna be talking about that all affect the downtown area. And these 3 that just highlighted, Broadway repaving, 6th and 7th Avenue, and 2-laying a section of Hilliard are the ones I want to chat with you all about tonight. Just because they're kind of 3 bigger changes that are in very preliminary stages. We don't have even like drawings or anything for them, but we're going to be talking about them at the open house, and so it feels like the ATC should know about them if you happen to come to the open house, or if you're talking to people and they hear, you hear about it or something. So I was just gonna go over what I know about these projects. I don't know everything about them, but I had a long conversation with Reed and he gave me a lot of the background info. Okay, so the first one is Broadway repaving. When I say Broadway, Broadway's kind of an odd street in town because there's the section that goes through downtown that's pretty straightforward. And then there's like this section, which is also considered Broadway. And that's basically from the corner of High Street. That's like on the far left is where Whole Foods is, down to where it kind of becomes Franklin and 11. That's also Broadway. So Broadway repaving, we're talking about this section. The part through downtown there's not really anything that needs to change there. It's a great street sort of.
That curving spot, that's not Franklin, that's still Broadway.
That's when it becomes Broadway.
Oh.
So it's
okay.
Franklin until it hits until it like splits off, and it splits off into Broadway and 11. It's kind of just odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Hilliard. Yeah, and it kind of turns, anyway. There are a couple things that we're looking at. The first one is this intersection, where you kind of come off the Ferry Street Bridge, and it like curves, and so you can go, it's a tricky intersection, and the way it is right now, it is extremely terrible unless you're in a car, and even if you're in a car, it's also still kind of terrible and stressful. So we're looking at changing it. Right now, we're kind of looking at 2 different options, either maybe putting a roundabout in there if it makes sense. We have to run some analysis and see if it makes sense, or doing a T intersection, which would, right now it's a swoopy, and the T intersection would just make it a T with some lights. The other piece is we're looking at a couple lane removals. So there's more capacity on Broadway, this section of Broadway, than is needed. There's 3 driving lanes on either direction. So in some cases, it's like a 6-lane street, which is not necessary based on the traffic volumes. And there's a lot of apartments that are getting built in this exact area. So we're expecting a lot more people to be walking and biking, in addition to parking and having delivery and rideshare as well. So it might make sense to remove some of those lanes and create more like temporary pickup drop-off zones for delivery vehicles. Oh, that's okay. That's it in my slides, because what I wanted to do was just bring and get closer in.
Favor of playing that.
Wow. Good grief. Okay, so here's this intersection that I was talking about. So you can see there's 3 lanes here. There's 2 lanes and parking here. It kind of splits. It's strange. This is a very strange intersection. There's a lot happening here. There's a lot of weird little islands. What's that?
Is that Goodwill that over there?
Whole Foods is right here.
Oh, Whole Foods, okay.
And then, yeah, there's that good boutique Goodwill, which I think is just
right
like down here. Maybe it's right there. So this is one of those things where it's like, we have a lot of conversations to do with businesses in the area and with residents, nothing's set in stone, but the city is looking at taking out one of the lanes where those 3 lanes are. So mouse up here. 3 lanes come off of the Ferry Street Bridge, and it would make sense to somewhere along here remove this lane and have people merge over, and then turn this lane, especially along this stretch here, which I think recently had an apartment building added, turn it into a sort of temporary parking, delivery, pickup, drop off lane, which would narrow the roadway, the drivable space, which would ideally slow people down a little bit, in addition to fixing the intersection.
Is there any conversation about turning the 4-lane cross section west of this intersection into a 3-lane with a turn lane
This way?
like that? Like, could that be like, or is it gonna stay 4 lanes there? Cause that curb tight sidewalk is very stressful.
This right here?
Yeah, and also biking to High Street. Yeah, there and then. I forgot.
I don't,
Yeah.
it's, from what I talked to with Reed, he didn't mention that, but I think that can be feedback from the APC is something to look at.
Okay.
This entire intersection is gonna get a redo, so what it'll look like a little bit away from the intersection, I think is definitely open for being considered.
Mhm.
So this is Broadway, and as we scroll. Oh my gosh, this is a new feature. Over here. There's also some proposed changes as part of this paving project in this area as well, so. It turns into Broadway here and comes off Ferry Street Bridge here, but over here is where it becomes Hilliard. And right now, there's 2 right turning lanes, and there's a proposal to remove one of those as well. This one closest to the sidewalk, and add an amenity strip or like a park strip, so we could put in some street trees, and basically there's a wide sidewalk multi-use path there, but it's pretty gross and unpleasant because you're just right next to a bunch of traffic, and if there was a barrier between there with grass and trees, it would make it a lot more pleasant. So that's a proposal there, and then what that would look like as we come into this is, you know, there's changes that could occur here. This is planned to be changed to the railroad quiet zone. And this is 2-way until here, and then it becomes 1-way. And that's the other project that I mentioned. Go back to the list. Hilliard 2-way, that's the section we're talking about. So it's just that tiny little piece of Hilliard. Right here where it's 1-way, it's 2 lanes of 1-way travel. We're proposing making it 2-way. And what that would do is it would create from High Street, just another route to getting into the river district. Cause right now it doesn't have traffic capacity. It doesn't have enough traffic to justify having 2 lanes 1-way travel. It would just increase mobility for everyone, including people driving. To have just a regular 2-way street there.
Probably.
Yeah, I've been kind of confused by that, like strip of concrete that separates the 2 lanes, like when I am driving in that area, I always think I have to get over.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't.
This right here, the
Yeah.
pedestrian island.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you can, it's literally.
It's very
You
weird.
can do either
Yeah.
side, it
Yeah.
doesn't actually matter, but it looks like
Feels
you have to
like-
like make an intense choice. which
Yeah,
is
Yeah,
definitely
totally.
not.
And I
a
have
safe
had
thing.
somebody off there next to me.
Yeah, it's strange. It's like, it's definitely strange, and it's also strange as a person walking or biking, because usually the pedestrian refuge island is in the middle of 2 lanes going different directions.
Yeah.
And so when you cross there, it's like you look left and you think you can cross, but there's also people coming from the right before you get to the island. So it's not as predictable for you as the walking and biking person either. So it's like overall weird to have it splitting 2 lanes going the same direction. So that would probably be a piece of that project, as well as looking at how to maybe change that pedestrian refuge island. Let's
And
see if
because
this-
it's because it's paving, does that also include striping or paint? Sharrows or
Oh my gosh.
anything else that might be pedestrian and bicycle and rollerblading, et cetera?
For the Hilliard 2-way section, I don't believe that would be a repaving project. That would probably just be a striping project.
Oh,
'Cause I don't
that's
think
what it's
That
called.
Hilliard, I don't think that Hilliard 2-way section, I don't believe needs to be repaved. I think it's just a 2-way. But the Broadway project is a repaving project, so that would I think that's why we're looking at doing so many changes, because we're like, well, this is a whole repaving project and there's a lot happening here that maybe we should consider.
Is there a name to that style of intersection right by Whole Foods?
No,
Okay,
it's its own unique beast.
it's very
I mean, it maybe
interesting.
does have a name like
Spaghetti.
or like
Chaos?
Yeah.
Chaos.
I think,
It's
is that referred to as a pork chop or?
Yeah, this little guy's a pork chop right here.
Mm.
So when there's like a triangular land mass in an intersection, that's referred to as a pork chop, but there's like these other ones that aren't quite pork chop shaped.
On the side.
I mean, at least they left some land and didn't just pave the whole thing.
T-bone, what's in the T-bone? Oh, that has. Oh, yeah, no, let's call it a T-bone, because it also.
T-bone, yeah.
I
we
mean,
can-
it
Cause access.
almost looks like a good use case for traffic circle, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, a roundabout is
Well,
something we're looking at
yeah.
for that
Oh, okay,
intersection,
okay, cool.
cause it could,
There's roundabouts and other spots on Franklin being developed.
There's gonna be
Yeah.
four.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
yeah, right now we're looking at adding 2 roundabouts to Franklin as part
Or
of
just
phase
2?
1.
Oh, I know, so we get to one.
Yeah.
So we used to it.
Yeah, people will use
Busy.
it.
Yeah, well, what
They'll figure it
is
out
the time frame for this? Where is the funding coming from for the
Yeah,
repave
good.
project? And what other points along the way is ATC and public going to have opportunities to engage with the design?
That is a great question. So the repaving money is already set aside through the pavement preservation bond.
Okay,
And
do you know when that's scheduled?
that right now is scheduled for 2026, but as I was talking to Reed, he was like, that feels a little soon based on all the changes we want to make and the planning that still needs to be done and additional funding that needs to be secured if we want to build a roundabout or a
Yeah.
T intersection and do all these other changes. So there's discussion about moving it back a little bit, maybe 27. In order to be able to do that process. Cause this is, I think. If we're gonna make an intersection change, it's a pretty big change. It would need to
Yeah,
have a much more robust planning process than just like, we're just doing it and not, like we do with the paving projects where we kind of just do stuff. We don't really have to do much community engagement. So that being said, there will probably be many more opportunities for the ATC and the general public overall and stakeholders in the area to engage with us on the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
How
that's
much
good.
engagement do you have to do to take out lanes?
Um.
Can you just do that?
As far as I know, there's no like legal things for taking out lanes, but we do have a political climate that we have to navigate, where we make sure that we are, have support from at least some of the community for decisions. Yeah.
Well, and that's a no man's land in terms of neighborhood associations. There are really aren't.
Oh,
Right, the downtown neighborhood.
Yeah,
associations
it's not,
technically.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
it's the businesses really who are the primary stakeholders.
Well, I'd say we show them some crash statistics and be like, this is gonna be safer. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then something else I guess to consider is if we're already messing up a lot of Franklin, like I don't know if it's best to do all the construction at once.
Right.
I think in downtown that didn't work great.
Right.
Or I also know in other neighborhoods they get really mad if you do like 6 years of construction, like so
Right.
like just trying to make sure that this construction project and that one go hand in hand somehow, that it doesn't disrupt the community for a decade.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
extremely valuable feedback. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
When Rob has mentioned the reduction of lanes on Broadway before, he suggested that one option is to widen sidewalks. Is that still in the mix?
I believe that's still in the mix.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because if you take a travel lanes are 10 or 11 feet wide and parking lanes tend to be more like 8 or 9 feet wide. So that does provide, when we do that, when we take a travel lane and make it a parking lane, it gives us a couple feet that we could feasibly turn into pedestrian or biking space, yeah, or amenity space or something to improve the human on the street environment. So I believe that's still like up for discussion. Yeah.
Earlier, you mentioned that you were thinking of using one of those lanes to be like a temporary stop delivery section. What does that look like?
It would be like, there's a lot of places in downtown that just say like delivery parking only or like
Oh,
freight
okay.
parking or
Yeah.
whatever, and you're not allowed to park there.
Yeah,
It's not like 20 minutes for anyone. It's like, this is freight parking or whatever. So something like that, or it could be a 20-minute parking only.
Okay.
Or. I don't know, we're in a new era, there could be like an Uber Lyft spot or something. So I think that would be something we need to flesh out as well. We're in
Okay.
super early stages for this, so we have paving money, but other than that, this is kind of where we're at. So the thoughts that you all have shared have been really helpful so far.
Thank you
Anything
for
else
bringing
on-
it so early to us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Really important.
Okay, I think I'll move on to the other project. So we already discussed Broadway repaving, the Hilliard two-way. The other thing I want to talk about is 6th and 7th. So here's 7th Avenue. there's
Before you
6th
do,
Avenue.
you
Yes.
mentioned that, when you were pointing at the Hilliard and 8th
Mhm.
intersection there where it goes over, you mentioned that the Railroad Quiet Zone project was gonna be dealing with some piece of that.
Mhm.
Can you describe for that? Cause we've been, actually Sue and I happened to stop here the other day and we're looking at this whole circulation in
Yeah.
terms of 8th, but what is the Railroad Quiet Zone project going
Right.
to do there?
So the railroad quiet zone, so right now. There's nowhere to cross. You have to like get onto this side of the railroad before you can get across, so
Yeah.
if you happen to be going on here and you wanna go downtown, like, it's really inconvenient.
Horrible.
So the railroad quiet zone is going to make 3 crossings here, it's gonna turn it into a more normal intersection, so there'll be a crossing here, a crossing here, and a crossing here because it's a T intersection. So that's gonna be the primary change, as well as adding quad gates that block quad gates block the entire railroad very sufficiently, where right now it's just those two little posts. That you can easily sort of drive around or walk or bike around, and the quad gates will block the railroad for when a train's coming in and they don't have to blow their horn legally. So the purpose of the railroad quiet zone, the whole idea behind the railroad quiet zone isn't to make infrastructure changes, it's to make it so the horns don't have to blow when they go through town. And the purpose of that is that we're building a ton of housing along the railroad, and when 28 trains blow their horns every day, 28 times, it makes living there really unpleasant. So that's the purpose of the railroad quiet zone. There are 2 spots in town that need more significant interventions. This is one of them that we are kind of looping into the railroad quiet zone. When we do the quad gates, we're just gonna make this whole thing, do an intersection improvement. The other one is Hyatt Fifth, which is also a railroad crossing that's in need of significant change, as you all are well aware. Yeah,
My understanding is the railroad quiet zone also involves fencing along both sides of the tracks, is that
Oh.
correct?
That sounds correct. I don't know for sure, but that sounds right to me.
Well, and there's also that intersection, I think it's on Blair and like First.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
right.
In the Whitaker, yeah, that's not protected. They definitely blow their horns there.
Yeah. No, so 8th and 5th are the 2 that are getting big infrastructure changes, but the entire all the railroad crossings, the whole town are getting quad gate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
And there will be someone at the downtown open house to talk about the railroad quiet zone,
Is Trainsong gonna have to change their name?
right?
No, they'll still use their horns down there. Downtown.
Well, because the train operators can elect to blow their horn anytime they want to. Yeah,
And they
so,
do.
yeah, so even if there's quad gates, if there's people around the railroad, they're gonna blow their horn anyway. So that.
And
you know.
what's the timeline? For
Great
that?
question. The railroad quiet zone has been going on for a really long time. Yeah, we,
Before there's any housing in the downtown, or the e-website, supposedly, that was the original idea.
Yeah.
Gotta get it done before people move in there.
so the thing is, from the city end of things, all of our ducks are the most lined up ducks you've ever seen. It's all like ready to go, and the railroad has just been delaying for a long time, and they're an independent agency. We have no control or repercussion, or like, there's no repercussions for them to delay this project, so we're kind of stuck. The expectation is that it'll start in 2025, but every single year we push it out a year because we're just waiting on the railroad, and I'm not really sure what the hangup is. And I was just talking to Reed about it, and Reed was like, we should look into legal, like if there's anything we can do legally to kind of push them to approve this project so we can move on it. Because we've been stuck waiting for it for a long time at this point.
I haven't been to the Public Works website for a long time, so I haven't seen whether there is up-to-date information about the rural quiet zone, but I have heard a lot of people ask me like, what's ever happened to that rural
Mhm.
quiet zone? Is it up-to-date information?
It's up to date information on the website. It doesn't have that spiel on there, but it just says, 2025 now. It used to say 2024 and it said 2023 before that and
Yeah.
2022 before
Okay.
that. So every time it gets delayed, we go in there and we update the
Okay.
date. It's a good point that it might make sense to just like create a little narrative that's like, this is why it's held
I
up.
think so, because otherwise it looks bad for the city.
Yeah, it does. And it's frustrating when, from the city's point of things, we are totally ready
Yeah.
to go on the
And
project.
are there updated diagrams on there about what is gonna be done at each intersection?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I was on the committee actually a long time ago that did some of this planning, and I don't remember what.
Okay, can we move on to 6th and 7th? I think we're running a little bit behind.
Block 6 and 7.
It is 7:02. Okay, I'm just going to see if we can get through this in like 5 minutes. The changes to 6th and 7th are not complicated. So right now, 6th and 7th are both 4 travel lanes through the heart of downtown. And we are discussing removing one of the travel lanes on both 6th and 7th and creating on-street parking in those lanes. On-street parking is not necessarily the goal of these projects. The goal is to narrow the roadway and create bump outs to narrow the pedestrian crossings. So that's the real purpose, but the side benefit is that they're gonna be more like parking bays rather than a parking lane. So anytime where there's no parking, ideally we're having concrete and planter strips jutting out into that lane, and then it bumps back in for parking spaces. So I believe, let's see, what did Reed say? On 6th, it's the north side lane, and on 7th, it's the south side lane. The decision for that is because that's where most of the destinations are and where there's the most parking because there's fewer driveways. So looking at where we can put things. So I think it's easy to remember because 6th is north and 7th is south. So this north lane here, and then on 7th, it would be the south lane.
From where to where?
Oh, yeah, it's a little bit up for discussion, but I think Charnelton is where on 7th, the MX drops. The MX is on 7th and then it goes on to Charnelton, so there's kind of a redundant lane already that you weren't allowed to drive in, and now all of a sudden you can, so it kind of makes sense to just take that lane. And then there's discussion between whether or not it goes to Pearl or to High. The reason there's a little bit of hesitancy to take it to High is because of the way that these streets come out. There are 4 lanes that come off, so there needs to be 4 lanes to receive those before you can bump it down to 3 to give people who are driving time to merge.
But
into
only
3
one
lanes.
gets a green at a time, right?
Right, yeah, so that's why it's not decided. Because this is also in early stages, so Reed was like, I don't know where it'll go, but I do know there's 4 lanes here, so we might need to keep the 4, but we'll see.
I think there was something like they're state highways officially, so we can't really do anything with them. Did I just make that up?
No.
Like.
Yeah, because they are, but I believe that similar to Franklin Boulevard, which is a state highway.
Okay.
The city of Eugene has taken jurisdiction over the at-grade streets in Eugene, even when they are state highways. So our like raised highways are ODOT, but when they're at grade, the city of Eugene has taken jurisdiction over them. That doesn't make them not highways anymore. They're still highways, but we have the ability to make changes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
How are you? Oh.
So if that's the case, it's great that there's something happening, but that's not enough on 6 and 7. And so since we're in early stages, are there some ways for us to be more proactive to say, here's the ideal situation?
I think that there's nothing stopping us from proposing a more ideal situation to the folks who are planning this project.
Okay,
Yeah,
wonderful.
so I think if ATC, like if we want to have more time to discuss 6th and 7th and get some recommendations of like, in our perfect world, this is what 6th and 7th would look like. We could put that on a future agenda and try and get that to the planners and see,
Well, that'd be wonderful.
I think that stuff always, it matters for sure.
Good idea.
That'd be great, Will.
Okay, cool.
Is that something the infrastructure committee might work on a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I have a question. Have you considered, instead of parking or temporary spots, putting in like a bike, bus only lane, or maybe like a light rail of some sort?
Not that I know of, but that could be part of the recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go.
I think there, from my understanding, there is
So when you're
some,
putting in a light rail.
there's some, yeah, as much as that's cool. I'm not-
Well,
but
that's good. Looks like that, right?
Yeah.
The MX buses.
I think there's a component of getting buy-in from the downtown community. I imagine that's where the parking idea is
Sure.
coming from, but it doesn't mean that we can't bring alternatives to the community and let the community tell us what they want. So
Yeah.
I can also bring that to the planners and see kind of what lands. So I think that could go in an
I
ATC
think-
recommendation for this project.
Some walking advocates, count car parking as like a buffer between the sidewalk and the traffic, so that it has, I mean, I guess that could be called an advantage. Not that there couldn't be other ways to buffer it. But yeah, but as a bargaining chip, I can see that too.
Mhm.
Oh, Jesus, where it's a bus only, it's 5 lanes. That is.
Okay, let's move on. Cause I think we've done what we can do here. What do we have next? Protected bikeway survey. Did you all get a chance to review the protected bikeway survey?
Yeah.
I sent it out a couple times. I'll also just pull it up, I think would make sense. Okay, so this protected bikeway survey was born out of the High Street Protected Bikeway Survey. We had created a High Street Protected Bikeway Survey. 8th Avenue opened, my team and I were looking at the High Street survey and we were like, it feels like we should zoom out and just talk about our protected bikeways overall. Now that this survey is developed, it feels like it was the right choice. From my team's perspective, like, we are really trying, the fine tuning of High Street is happening, like, regardless of whether or not we survey people, but we're continuing to build protected bikeways, so we want to get that higher level, like, what are we doing? Are we doing a good job? Are we doing an okay job or a bad job? What do you want to see for future protected bikeways, and really like advance our work? So this seemed like it was more effective. I will say that Alder Street is included in this. It's referred to as a protected bikeway. It's not protected, but it is a two-way bikeway, and out of simplicity, it just seems easier to include it. That was one thing I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on. Does that seem like an issue, or do you think it is okay for it to be in there?
Part of Alder is protected by parking.
Right,
Between,
that little section.
yeah. it's
Yeah.
2 blocks.
I think it's fine to include.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
hopefully no one like leaves an angry comment that's like, this is not protected, because every now and then I get emails from folks who are like, can you put concrete here? And we're like, that would be great, but it doesn't really raise to priority.
I like that.
You can put buffered / protected. 'Cause
Right.
It is buffered.
Yeah, it is buffered, that's true. Okay, I'm wondering how we wanna do this conversation, because I do think most of you all got to take the survey. We could go question by question and just kind of talk about them, or we could go more zoomed out, and if people had broader feedback that they wanted to start with.
We'll run out of time going question by question.
Probably,
because the
yeah.
group will dive into each question.
And what I really tried to focus on when developing this survey was what will actually inform our work, because there's all sorts of things I'm curious about that would be cool to know. Me and my team had all sorts of ideas of things that would be cool to know, but the short surveys are effective surveys, so I was really trying to cut out anything that's just cool and really only include stuff that's going to inform the future of our work. So that's the idea.
Yeah, I liked the length of the survey. I thought it wasn't too long. It was easy to get through, and there were a decent amount of text boxes. So like if you did have comments, you could add stuff, so it was good variety. Would say the one thing I noticed immediately was on some of the choices where it like went from once a week, once a month, and then never. I feel like I could have used like a once a year or something
Yeah.
option, because like maybe I've seen something once. So then I'm like, choosing once a month? No.
Okay,
Yeah, so maybe like something between.
2 or 3 times a month too. There's a couple of them, or at least one of them, where it's like 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 times a month versus once a month or once a week or once a year.
okay, yeah, it feels like once a
I
week
don't know
is
how to word- I
often,
don't know
once
how
a
to
month
word
is
that,
not often.
but-
Or even,
Yeah,
Some of them are like a seasonal question, I mean, like the encountering maiden issues, like leaves. Leaves are constantly in the lanes in the fall,
right,
but like they look good in the summer most of the time.
yeah,
And I just had no idea how to like answer that question. Which
Okay.
is funny, but it also is kind of real.
yeah. Okay.
Sure.
I can keep originally I had daily several times a week. And then I think I had sometimes and often, and I got feedback that that was too broad. So it's like trying to find that balance between like being broad and being concrete.
That's hard.
Yeah, but I could maybe, I think there is like a once a year or
Yeah.
like something like that goes in between once a month and never, so.
Yeah. So I don't wanna say like, oh, I see
Occasionally
debris once a
might be
month, that
good
seems
to-
like too often.
Let's go Sue and then we'll go Peter.
I was just kind of wondering, I guess, it seems like when you broaden it to all of the ways, I don't know if you're gonna get specific enough question. I mean, in other words, do you like the signals or not? Well, if I'm thinking about, this particular day, yeah, I like them, but there's that one at 10th and
Yeah,
High, it drives
yeah,
me nuts,
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I don't know that, I was wondering if you wouldn't be better served by, getting a group of relatively infrequent bicyclists, the kind you're trying to attract to this kind of thing, you just do a focus group discussion with them or something. I'm just afraid you're not gonna get a lot of useful information from a survey where people's reactions might be based on what just happened to them today or what they, which particular intersection they're thinking about as opposed to, I'm just
Right.
not sure you're really gonna get the kind of information we can use.
Yeah, I think a focus group is a good idea and could be something we could do in addition to the survey. I don't know if we have to do it either or. Like, I think we could maybe do a focus group also. I think that is a good idea.
I think,
I'd be a little more optimistic about the survey if, as long as there's place for people to clarify, it's like. Got to exactly get to what Sue's saying, it's like, well, I'll check that this, most of the signals mostly work for me, but let me write in the one that doesn't.
Right.
Kind of thing.
I think I asked like, do you run red lights is one question.
Yeah.
And then, have you used the signals to turn left or right? Cause that's the purpose of the
yeah,
signal.
that's one, I was wondering, have I ever used it? Yeah, it's like, it seems like,
Oh, yeah, that was a good question.
yeah, it seems like,
Originally, I had this
I
question
don't know how to work.
where it was like, how often do you use it? And it was like, always, sometimes, and I got feedback that didn't make any sense. 'Cause they're
Yeah,
like, if I used it once, is that sometimes? So that's why I tried to make it like, I've only done that once, or I've done it a couple times, or I only travel straight, is kind of how I phrase those answers. Does it still feel confusing? Or did it?
I guess, what are you trying to test here? I mean, the way I read it is just, you're trying to see whether people understand that they can do this. Is anyone really,
Is
have
anyone-
they figured out that they can do this?
Yeah, well, and I
And-
think if 60% of people say, no, I only travel straight along the bikeways, that feels like relevant information for us to know. Because then like us making these bikeways arguably inconvenient is what I've heard from some people. For a very small minority of people who use the green light to turn, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
don't
what
know
I
that you'll
thought you were
get that.
getting at. Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary.
oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna, I don't think you'll get that from this question,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
because there are people who just don't realize that, oh, I can cut left across traffic here or right across traffic here. So it's not, if you found that people weren't doing it, it may be just because they haven't figured out they can. I mean, like I say, the way I read it is you're trying to figure out whether people understand how to use these intersections. But
Right.
if that's not what you want to know, then maybe the question.
It's kind of a combination. Surveys are interesting because they're like this also oddly convenient time to educate people because they're already there. And so it's like, this question is also basically educating them that they can turn left or right at a bike signal, at a green bike signal. So it does serve that purpose.
Well, and I sent you I sent you some notes,
Mhm.
actually,
I did
just a
get
handful,
those.
and you know, and one of them was to have, instead of having in 5, the text explaining this, turn that in itself into a question, and you know, basically, did you know that
Right.
when, you know, and just yes or no, figure out right away what space they're in, yes, you know, yes, I did know this, or, oh, no, I didn't know that, and then it gives you some grounds to interpret
Yeah,
what comes after.
yeah, I liked that feedback. I think
Uh,
I'll probably incorporate that.
Yeah, that one's a weird one.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, just that question.
Yeah,
So-
Peter had some
Yeah.
thoughts and then I'll go to Sue.
I was gonna ask what like, how the survey would impact future bikeways, but I feel like we've kind of gotten to that. already.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
well, our team is trying, you know, Eugene is kind of unique. Well, okay, how do I want to put this? Reed went on a road trip and he drove all over the country and he brought his bike and he was in all these different cities. And when he got back, he was like, Eugene is kind of the only city doing it this way, where we're just having the bike phase and the driving phase totally separate almost all
Really?
the time. He said a lot of other cities are doing turn boxes and concurrent movements and stuff. And so we're trying, as a team, we're trying to figure out how do we want to balance, you know, our mindset of all ages and abilities with that like more convenient and concurrent bike phases. And we really need to know, and I think that's a big piece of this survey is like, if 90% of people are like, I'm running red lights, then we're like, it's not working, right? We need to make a change.
Oh, they're going.
Even if it's
Not that money.
even if it is, yeah, so I'm really curious, like, what is the percentage of people who are saying I'm frequently running red lights, or I always run red lights, or even I sometimes, like,
My answer's sometimes, but.
yeah, I wanna know, like, I wanna know what that.
And I'm on the active
Yeah.
transportation committee. The average person, it's gonna be more.
There's gonna be people who are like, I always run 10th and high, but I don't really wanna know, like, which intersections do you run red lights? I just wanna know broadly, like, do you feel like you're running red lights a lot? Because if you are, then we have a problem, right? So I think that's where our team is trying to figure out, like, do we do leading bike intervals, kind of like leading pedestrian intervals, where maybe the bike signal turns green for 2 seconds and then the driving signal turns green, and so the biker gets out a little bit before drivers can make their movements, but no one can turn, and then we'd have to put turn boxes, and we'd be doing a big change to our bikeway system, but we don't have that many yet. So we could do that. Once we're 10, 12 bikeways deep, it starts to get harder to change the traffic control. So we're at like a deciding moment, especially because we're building Lincoln and we're about to launch our engagement for the Oakway protected bikeway. So we need to make some decisions. So that's the purpose of this.
Yeah, I do think that because like I've learned here that the reason for the lights are so that you're protecting that left turn and that cars can still turn. I think once folks realize that, then they're more inclined to run the red light. I guess speaking from personal experience.
You're like, oh, it's just for the turn.
Yeah,
and then
so
you
now
look,
I
like,
just
no one's
like have
turning, I can
to,
go.
yeah, watch
Yeah.
out, and then I feel safer.
Well, and then there's some like at 13th where if you're heading northbound on High Street, there's not gonna be any left-hand turning traffic, you know, so.
Or like at Pearl and Aid.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
why would you stop there, you
Right.
know, and so that's one's very tempting to run every time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we, like, our team knows that. We also run red lights sometimes, you know, like the people who built it are like, I'm not gonna set up this light. So I think that's where we're trying to figure out,
Yeah.
like, how do we balance that? Because some people are gonna run red lights, like, that's just true no matter what. But if it's a certain frequency percentage, then something maybe needs to change. So we're trying to figure it out. We feel like the survey is going to inform that decision, and that's kind of how we designed the survey, was to inform that decision. And I think that's where a lot of these questions come from. But some of the feedback you've already given is like, how can I drill down even deeper into these, since that is really the question we're trying to answer.
Well, the red light question's fine, unless you wanna like get the specific intersection.
Yeah, and what I do have is anything else to add about bike signals or protected bikeway intersections, and this is where I'm hoping people could put, if they have like a specific thing that they want to address, they can put it in this box, which is like, this spot in particular doesn't work well, and this one I really like, or something like that.
I think the question I was asking myself when I was trying to answer some of these questions is about do you like having bike signals or something, was one of the questions. And in certain instances, yes, I do like having like a special bike signal, but that's not usually when it's at a different time than the road signal, I guess.
Yeah,
So I
I
don't know
think
how
it's
you
this
can-
question that you're referring to, are longer wait times at intersections worth fewer conflicts. with people driving? Is that
Well, just in general, I guess I would recommend maybe if you're able to like add a picture of like, the bike signals that you're referring to. I'm not sure what question it is. You might want to scroll up.
I think those are the three questions we have about signals. There's the what features of protected bikeway do you like and dislike, and separate bike signals is one of the options.
Yeah,
Is that
it
this
was that one.
Yeah, where you're like, sometimes I like it, and
Sometimes-
sometimes I feel like it needs to be improved.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you could click it for both.
Mhm.
Like you could say I like it for the I like question, and you could say needs to be improved for the needs to be improved question. I feel like when we're doing our analysis, we could probably figure out what people
Yeah,
mean by
but I didn't know if you wanted feedback on like specific types of bike signals, and then that would be confusing.
You can do that as a
City.
scale, you know, how much do you like?
Mhm.
And then that way you you only have one question.
Mm,
So because your or your items
They're
are
all
the
the same.
same,
yeah.
with like and dislike, do it as a scale. So I really like it, I really hate it.
So then you could put like seeing interacting with other people biking would be like on the far like scale, and then
Yeah,
you could
so
put the
it's a 1
signals
through
at like a
5
5
scale,
or a 6,
exactly.
and that would kind of indicate, I like them sometimes, but there's room for improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look into that. That's a good idea.
Or if you wanted to add a text box underneath, like some of those,
Uh-huh.
what do you like? What types of options do you like on the streets? Protected bike lanes or bollards? Like if you had a text box underneath there, and maybe someone could be able to give feedback directly on the styles.
Okay.
Are we doing these or are we just
Yes.
popcorning? I don't know.
We are kind of doing a combo.
Both. Okay. Well, and I know it's getting late, but I wanted to put maybe on a future agenda, getting back to that whole question of how you handle protected bikeways at intersections, you know, maybe after the survey or something, but I'm hoping we can have a chance to look at that, because I believe that we were led to believe at some point that isn't it the MUFD thing that says you had to have protected, you know, signals, because I think nobody was thrilled with them because it slowed everything down, but a protected phase for cyclists
There-
so that they can, so anyway, it's a bigger conversation.
Right, there
But-
was something with the MUTCD that had some
That-
requirements that prevented bike turn boxes.
Mhm.
And I think also had some things with pedestrian phases
Mhm.
that I think have been updated.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the reasons we're like
I'm
launched this
really glad you're
conversation.
looking at it and that
Yeah.
you've got an open mind about it. You're not just like, okay, we're stuck because we started it, because I think it's a really important question.
I think so too.
Yeah. Anyway, so future agenda item, if we could add that, you know, I'm guessing we'll have a chance to come back to it. but-
Yeah, what I'd like to do is get this survey out there
Yeah.
and bring it, bring the results to you all, like do some analysis, bring a presentation about what we found.
Yeah.
And then I think that can lead into the conversation, you know, my team will be having a conversation and we can have an APC conversation that can inform what our
Yeah.
team is thinking as well.
Yeah.
Cause I think you all, like, everyone hears feedback on how these intersections should work, I think is really valuable. Okay, Alan.
Yeah, so on question number 3. What do you like about protected bikeways? The answer that one answer I would include is that it allows for 2-way bike travel on a street that is 1 way for cars.
Oh, yeah, good idea. That's a great idea, cause some of them do that.
They do.
Yeah.
That means places are more accessible.
Totally.
It's really nice.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Charlie.
Yeah, I put this in my notes to you too, but I just want to bring up here in case anyone else had a different thought, but you know, we talk about the people are willing to excited about using a bicycle network if it's safe, pleasant and convenient. And you had questions here about safe and pleasant, but not about convenient. And it would be really interesting to know, are people using these bikeways because they're saving them time, or are they not saving them time? They're only using because they're safe. Are they connecting destinations that people want to go to, or are we somehow missing in this bicycle, protected bicycle design, you know, actually building them where people need to go from and to on a connected, but I don't know how to workshop phrase those questions. And as I said, I'm reluctant to make this any longer, but it does seem like somehow coming up with a way to test whether people are using them because they're convenient as opposed to safe or pleasant, would be worthwhile. Are they using them because they get them to where they want to go faster than they might otherwise get there?
Right,
Yeah, good.
okay.
You
Or
could say our
workshop.
goal is to make these safe, pleasant, and, are they safe? Are, maybe something as simple as that,
Box if convenient. Well, cause I made this one, which was like, how has your, how has it changed? How often you ride your bike on these? I put an NA option, cause there might be people who are like, I moved here when they were all built, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Or they just don't go that direction.
Or they don't use like East Amazon, I probably put NA, cause I don't really bike on that, but, I did put the I now avoid this street option. Because I thought that would be useful to some people who maybe, are like, I don't use high anymore or something like that. And then I have the more often, which is like, I go, in my mind, that's like, I go out of my way to ride on this as opposed to other options. I do feel like this
Right.
sort of captures what you're talking
Yeah,
about,
but
but not
people
quite,
might
because they
answer
might
this
choose it.
because they might choose it
For
because it's
safety,
safer
yeah.
or more pleasant than
Really
what they
cool
were
if you
doing
could add
before.
those columns at the end.
Yeah.
Why do you use it? It's safe, it's pleasant.
Yeah.
That might be way too much. but-
Yeah, triple matrix.
Yeah. But if you put those closer together, see?
Yeah, so there's that question.
Good comment, though.
Very valuable. Because this is where, do you feel safer, do you feel more relaxed, but there's the
Yeah.
convenience that is.
I guess there's do you, now it's the same problem, but do you use over other possible routes, but that could have the same exact
Right,
logic.
yes, but maybe it's safer.
In my few minutes of working on this, I didn't try to workshop you any questions.
Yeah,
So, sorry, I'm gonna throw the problem at you.
Like, I'm really trying to focus on like what will inform my team.
Yeah.
And so there's certain things where it's like, this would be interesting and cool to know, but is it gonna change anything? Potentially not, so although it would be interesting, it may not be worth asking. Because we already have, we have a TSP, we have things identified, we know where we're building protected bike lanes, so I don't know if we're really like in a position to make, like, change right now, that could be a 5 years later conversation. Where it might be more relevant for us to ask, like, where are you going and is it convenient, so it's just something to try and figure out what really is going to impact our decision making at the city.
Well, this might be redundant with the ones you have down farther in the survey, but I was wondering, after asking how often do you use these protected bikeways, if you wanted to ask, did you use these bikeways before they were protected bikeways? So in other words, you can try to identify new users who are now using it, who didn't feel safe on it before.
Right.
And that's sort of
It's sort
asked
of
down below,
but
I
it's
was-
like,
yeah, I mean, it's sort of
Yeah.
asked there, but I was wondering if it might be worth
yeah,
trying to get at, are we really attracting new people who
Right.
didn't feel safe before?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left of the meeting. If you have any more comments about this survey, please email me with your comments. I welcome those because I am gonna continue workshopping this, but I also do want to launch it by the end of the month. So I'm in a little bit of a time where I need to like finish it and start getting it out there.
It's a good effort, Willow. It looks great.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it'll also, the other piece of running a survey is just that like good faith that we want to hear from the community. And I feel like
Yeah.
this will go a long way in just creating an opportunity for people to get their feelings about protected
Yeah.
bikeways out
Yeah.
and into
Yeah.
the city's ears.
Yeah, I'd sure wish
Yeah.
we'd talk to you instead of just complaining to me.
So I think there's a lot of feelings about the protected bikeways, and I think this will also just provide a place for people to get those feelings out, and I think that's really important. A few things to share in our last minute. The Bright Parade,
We should also hear from Rachel because she came here.
you came all the way
Yeah.
here to tell us what
I was
BPAC is
still-
doing.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's all good.
all good?
Sorry.
BPAC's good?
I mean, you can talk about Bright and then I'll.
Okay, Bright Parade is on September 28th. We have 12 volunteers signed up. We need like 60. So if you happen to be free on September 28th, it is actually so fun. It's like a really, it is a really cool event. It's like all lit up. There's tons of art. It's awesome. If you can volunteer, go to brightparade.com and click the sign up button. That would be really helpful. And then you get to be part of the in crowd.
Do you know what time the parade is?
It is
6:30.
6:30 to dark. Yeah.
By volunteers signed up, you mean people to help with the parade, not people to be in the parade?
Right,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
the in the parade is
Yeah.
taken care of. We need people to help with like staging and talking to people and like helping manage where people go and traffic control and all that kind of
It's
stuff.
really fun.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is.
It's pretty chill.
You volunteered last year,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we volunteered last year and staging was really fun because you got to see all the different participants by guiding them where they need to start. Yeah.
Best has started a bike happy hour the third Thursdays of every month. ATC is the second Thursdays of every month, so you could just keep your Thursday evenings open and go hang out for bike happy hour. The purpose is just to be building that bike community in a consistent basis and talking about the issues that are affecting people who bike.
It's Oakway a week from tonight.
Oakshire.
Oakshire.
Sure, we come tonight, and Karen Knutson's gonna be there, the mayor-elect. I believe. So it'd be a really good chance to talk to the new mayor about bike-related issues.
Is it the
Okay,
Oakshire
that's what I
in
got.
Eugene or?
Oakshire,
Yeah.
Eugene. Yes, the Springfield one's not open.
Oh,
It's coming. It's coming. Okay, we are 1 minute over, but Rachel, do you have?
Yeah, real quick, VPAC participated in the transportation hub that happened at the Springfield Block Party. Springfield Block Party is a few years old now, and that was on September 6th. Transportation hub was really cool. It was in this like parking lot by the Springfield Museum. There was Cascadia Mobility, Shift Community Cycles, Safe Process School, Brad was there. City of Springfield, and then BPAC volunteers, and we did a little like kids riding Strider bikes and little pedal bikes around the parking lot, getting them fit for helmets, telling them about resources, including like the Shift Kids bikes that are available. And a lot of people stopped by. The block party is like gotten really huge in terms of vendors, and so there were a lot of people just wandering through and lots of families, and it was a good time.
nice.
Thank you.
That's your. Okay, yay, okay, meeting adjourned.
Yeah, the subcommittees have been active, they've been doing stuff, but.
Well,
Angie.
Thanks, everybody. Sorry for keeping you a few extra minutes. Oh, if you didn't get an October sticker, there's more.
Were you in your town before you came?
I'll put it up on.
LA to Chicago. A little bit larger.
No, I was gonna say, it's like. You're like, the mayor is like, yeah, and I was like, I
Yeah.
had brunch with the mayor.
I do public comment in like city council, and then the director of public works is giving me their phone number. I was like, what?